Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here. I want to thank all the innovators and civic leaders and business leaders. I am honored to be the moderator. It's going to be an extraordinary evening. My job is to be quick and get out of the way, so I will begin my duties. And let me also say that it is an honor to be the Secretary of State of the greatest state in the greatest country in the history of the world. I'm going to briefly explain. I feel like Phil Donahue up here. Many of you don't know who Phil Donahue is. I'm going to briefly introduce each panelist. We're going to jump into some questions. I'll periodically pose a question we received from an audience member. We'll also run some polls throughout. And to wrap, I'll turn it back to Chicago Innovation and we'll transition to the reception. Again, I'm honored to be here. And with that, I'm going to introduce these outstanding panelists. First is Pete Kadens. Pete's the founder of Hope Chicago, chairman of the Kadens Family Foundation, a serial entrepreneur, philanthropist, and former CEO of Green Thumb Industries, the second largest cannabis company in the world. And in the essence of full transparency, Pete is a very, very close friend of mine. He's one of the greatest human beings on the planet. I'm honored to call him my friend. We're lucky to have him live in Illinois. Ladies and gentlemen, Pete Kadens. You want to come up, Pete? Next, another rock star, my friend Christy George, who's the president and CEO of Intersect Illinois. She was Chicago Magazine's Chicagoan of the Year 2024. She leads the state's economic development organization that recruits new businesses, jobs, and investments. She did an outstanding job with the DNC. Never been more proud of my home city of Chicago. She is an absolute rock star. I hope she's too smart to ever run for office, but I hope she never runs against me because she would crush me. But Christy George. Told you. Next, we have Mr. Kevin Warren. He's the president and CEO of the Chicago Bears, a great leader in the city, leads all football and business operations while overseeing the team's new stadium project. I've walked down the street with Kevin before. It's brutal. Everyone thinks they know how to win football games. But I want to thank Kevin for his leadership. And I also want you to know that I played Richard Dent in the Super Bowl Shuffle when I was in fourth grade. So I've got some familiarity with the Chicago Bears organization. Kevin Warren. Next, I don't know if it's raining out there or if those are fans, but next we have Brad Henderson. Brad's the CEO of P33, driving global technology leadership for Chicago, including the city's efforts to become a world-leading quantum hub. Brad is a great leader. P33 does outstanding work, and I will tell you, having traveled abroad, people know about P33 and all that's happening. We're lucky to have Brad in P33. Brad Henderson. And lastly, we have Andrea Saenz. She's the president and CEO of the Chicago Community Trust. For over 100 years, the Chicago Community Trust has been a national leader in connecting philanthropy to impact. I will tell you, few organizations have done more for the city of Chicago than the Chicago Community Trust. We are lucky to have them. Their impact is tangible, it's real. Thank you for everything that you've done. And also, I want to give a shout out. I think Andrea's mom is here. Came in from LA. Welcome to our city. Okay, so to start, Andrea, I'll start with you. I want to ask each of you for a very quick fill in the blank with a succinct vision statement. 2025 is Chicago's year to blank.
To come together and show the rest of the world how it's done when we do what we do best, which is partnership between civic organizations, businesses, government leaders, philanthropic folks, community folks, and just do it better than anyone else.
Yes. Brad, 2025 is Chicago's year to blank.
So this is, according to the United Nations, the International Year of Quantum. And so I think 2025 is officially the year where Chicago cements its role as the true center of the universe for quantum computing and anchored right in the heart of the south side of Chicago.
I would say 2025 is the year for Chicago to be bold, aggressive, and innovative.
Love it. And Super Bowl champions,
And
Pete
Super Bowl.
said. I told you. No.
That's in 2026, though. The game is in 2026. Yeah, right.
He's on message. He's Christy.
I think 2025 is Chicago's year, in one word, to be unstoppable. Chicago is strong today, but in the future, it can be unstoppable. And that is what we are going to do this year. We have, Chicago has the most corporate relocations and expansions for the 12th year in a row, an unprecedented 12th year in a row. No other city in the nation has that. And we need to continue moving forward on that path.
Great answer. Pete?
2025 is the year where we start prioritizing progress over politics. There's been too much bullshit and nonsense in this city. By the way, no one here endorses anything I say, nor does the YMCA, nor does Chicago Innovation. But some of the nonsense that's happening on the 5th floor in City Hall is going to have to change, and it's us in this room that's going to have to take the mantle and change it.
Thank you, Pete. All right, so before the next question, we have our first audience poll, and then I'm going to ask the panelists also to give me your answer. The question is, in what industry can innovation unlock the most growth opportunity for Chicago? A, artificial intelligence, B, quantum computing, C, life sciences, D, food and beverage, E, manufacturing, or F, other. I don't know how the poll's going to work exactly, but I'm going to ask the panelists if they remember them, which one they think. Pete, we'll go this way now. So artificial intelligence, quantum, life sciences, food and beverage, manufacturing.
You know, I think all of them could unlock significant growth. I'm actually really hopeful about the life sciences space for a host of reasons. I think we're one of the cities and the markets that can sort of vertically integrate the life sciences. We can do the research here, we can do the manufacturing here, we can do the trials here. So I really am hopeful that life sciences can be a hub here in Chicago.
I'm really bullish on quantum computing. I think that is something where the state has made a big bet, the city has made a big bet. We have the Illinois Quantum and Microelectronics Park that is on the southeast side of the city. We also have located our National Quantum Algorithm Center there on the IQMP, and we have some of the smartest, brightest minds in the city, in the state, and in the world working to make sure that we build up the quantum workforce and that we build up this really amazing emerging industry, nascent industry in our city. So I'm with quantum all day. I can't tell you all the things about quantum and explain quantum computing to you.
That was the first question for you. Explain quantum.
Yeah, no, that's not me. That's for Brad.
And blockchain.
Yeah.
Okay. Kevin?
I think from my viewpoint, it's the other, and I think the other is investment in our young people. One of the things that we have an opportunity here in Chicago, we have so many talented young people, but we also have our talented young people who are having to swim against unnecessary currents. So I think the more we can come together and kind of overlay all these various industries into the investment of our young people, I think that's something I know we're focusing on at the Bears. I'm focusing on personally with my family. And I think we just really need to empower and encourage and educate our young people to provide them with experiences that they haven't even been able to dream about, and help them to get on the right track and stay on the right track.
Great answer. Brad?
I'm voting twice at Chicago. And so I just endorsed what I heard from my last two friends. It's underdog season, it's March Madness, and other I think is behind. And so I'm going to bet on the underdog. And I think the underdog are our people. That resonates a lot with me, Kevin. And then I would be remiss if I didn't say, don't bet against Christy George and don't bet against quantum.
Good answer. Andrea?
I would say, I'm compelled by the quantum story right now. And I think in particular, the part of the story that I hope we'll cover a bit more when we talk about it, which is that because of the location of the Quantum campus and the way in which the partners have come together around that, it is a real opportunity for folks who wouldn't have ever thought of themselves as part of the quantum workforce of the future to have the training, the skills, the partnerships with city colleges, with Chicago State, with some of those institutions that serve all Chicago families. To be at the table from the beginning is transformational. And so quantum, it might not be a big enough share of the economy to transform everything because we do have the diverse economy here in Chicago, but it will be a way for us to model how to build these technologies of the future with everybody at the table and everybody having an opportunity to be part of that future.
Great answer. And I think the results are up so you guys can see them. Looks like Quantum takes the lead for now, and thank you for participating. I'm going to start my first individual question, and other panelists, if you want to chime in at the end, please do so. I want to start with Christy. Christy, I'm curious about two things. Number one, when you talk to businesses evaluating Chicago, what are things that you tell them about the uniqueness of Chicago as a place to do business? And number two, what new or emerging industries should Chicago really be excited about in the next 5 years?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the question. So I think one of the things that I started out with earlier is just how Chicago has risen in the rankings. 12th year in a row where we've had the most corporate expansions and relocations. It's actually also, we are number 2 in the nation from a statewide perspective. So Illinois is number 2. We are second only to Texas. And when I talk to businesses and try to recruit businesses to come here, it really comes down to 3 key things that I hear from businesses that are important and that are really impressive assets of our state and of our city. The first thing is our workforce. So going back to both our young people and our adults of working age, our workforce is 6 million strong across the state. Within the city of Chicago, obviously our population is about 2.7 million, but what's so important about our workforce is that half of our workforce in the state has a bachelor's degree or higher. At least 3 million people have a bachelor's degree or higher as part of our workforce. And within the city of Chicago, 43% of our working age adults over the age of 25 also have a bachelor's degree or higher. So we have an incredibly highly educated workforce, which really does set us apart from a lot of other states. In addition to that, and as part of that, within the state, we have over 240 institutions of higher education, which is huge, the 3rd largest community college system in the nation, another huge asset for us, 48 community colleges. We have 12 research institutions all throughout our state, and we have incredible assets here within the city of Chicago, whether that's University of Chicago, Northwestern, UIC, Loyola. We have so many incredible institutions here that are able to train our talent, whether that's at the higher education level, if that's at the trade level. We have incredible assets with our union partners as well. And even beyond that, when we think a little bit more broadly about the state, our state university at the University of Illinois graduates more engineers than MIT, Stanford, and Caltech combined. That is, yes, y'all better give a round of applause for that. What that is important for is for all of these emerging industries. It is important for quantum that we have that engineering talent. It is important for clean energy that we have that engineering talent, for battery storage, for all of these other things that are hugely important to ensure that we are at the top of innovation, that we are at the top of technology, that we are at the top of every single important advanced manufacturing emerging industry that we have operating here in the city of Chicago and the state more broadly, that we have that engineering talent. We have over 6,600 engineers that we produce here in this state. Now, the second thing that is so critical for businesses is our location and our infrastructure. So Illinois and Chicago, we sit in the middle of the nation. We are at the crossroads of America. We are the only state where all Class 1 railroads, all 6 Class 1 railroads meet in 2 different locations. The first is here in Chicago, and the second is down near St. Louis in Metro East, which is in Illinois. In addition to that, we have the 3rd largest interstate system, and we also have 19 inland ports and we have the crown jewel of O'Hare Airport. Now, y'all may not like going through O'Hare Airport, I get that, but it does make business easier. And all of that together with our ports, with our rail, with our interstate system, with the $60 billion of capital that our state has infused into our infrastructure system to improve our roads, to improve our bridges, all of that makes it easier for businesses to do what they need to do, which is their business. It makes it easier for them to move their goods from one part of the nation to another, and for them to get to speed to market, to make their products, to be able to get them all over the nation. So it makes us really attractive from that perspective as well. And the third thing that we've done, both as a city and a state, we have been working to make it easier for businesses to do their business. Now, at a state level, what I can say is that over the past 6 years, the Pritzker administration has spent a lot of time making sure that they got their fiscal house in order. They paid off over the last 6 years over $11 billion in legacy debt. They paid down their bill backlog to ensure that bills were paid within a 30-day time frame instead of the months or years that it had taken previously. And also partnered with the legislature to ensure that year after year there were balanced budgets and that we had regular surpluses. Now, all of that allowed for 9 consecutive credit rating upgrades. All of that debt, legacy debt, was paid off. And in addition to that, they were able to deposit $2.25 billion into a rainy day fund. All of that stability, all of that collaboration, all of that allowed for a new focus on economic development and to create incentives for businesses to come here and to recognize that you need to partner with business in order to increase the growth, the economic growth that we're all seeking to have, and to make sure that we can create jobs in all areas of the state. Thank you. I think with that, because we have the incentives, because we have the workforce, because we have the infrastructure, we are now seeing some real traction in what is the second part of your question, which is what are the emerging industries that we're seeing in this state? I think one, we've talked about quantum a little bit. That is certainly something that the state has made a huge bet on. Multiple partners across the state have been focused on building the quantum industry. And beyond that, I think one of the key industries that we're seeing a lot of growth, a lot of potential is in the clean energy space. The state made very clear in 2021 through its Climate and Equitable Jobs Act that there would be a target to get to 100% clean energy by 2050. We are focused on that. We're focused on creating new solar, new wind energy. We're focused on hydrogen. We're focused on all sorts of different technologies to be able to get to that clean energy goal. We have the benefit of having 6 nuclear reactors in our state, such that it creates all of that clean energy already. About 50% of our energy mix is through nuclear, and so that is a positive for us. But we need to grow wind and solar, and we are working to make sure that we do that.
Take that, Texas.
Basically.
Thank you. Thank you, Christy. I'm going to move to Brad. Brad, what developing industries may prove to be a critical part of Chicago's economic future? For example, I know that P33 has been instrumental, again, not to bring up quantum tech, but what industries do you think are critical to sort of add on to Christy's?
So here's what gets me really excited about Chicago the next 5 to 10 years and where we are right now. And I label it up something a little broader than quantum when I call it the future of computing. But I think our leadership in quantum will play a really critical role. So, and I have to talk about a lot of these computing topics, and sometimes you're trying to describe to very sophisticated business people what a trapped ion is, and other times I'm trying to explain it to my kids. And I actually think the explanation I give my 11-year-old and my 13-year-old is probably more helpful in how I think about this than the one I give when I talk about spin trap ions, right? So here's the way I think about it. We are in the middle of the second era of the core modality of computing. The first era was the CPU. The CPU drives everything we have. Actually, conveniently enough, was invented by a University of Illinois professor, the first transistor, Professor Bardeen. The second era, which we're in the middle of, and you might have read about it in the paper once or twice, is this thing called the GPU, AI. And the next one will be the QPU, the quantum processing unit. That's it. That's a simple way to think about 70 years of computing. The reality for the first era of CPUs, we invented it and we didn't capture the industry. I don't know if you guys have heard of Silicon Valley. It's called Silicon for a reason. It's because that is the material in the CPU. In all of Silicon Valley, all of its economic development, all of its economic opportunity was spawned by the CPU. The GPU, you may have heard of this company called NVIDIA. They are worth $2 trillion. They hire 1,000 people at a time, and everyone is exposed to anything that company or any of its competitors have anything to do with, is finding themselves in the middle of something incredibly prosperous. And again, I'd say Chicago, we did okay, but we're not a leader in the AI age. The reality is the next one will be as big. So if you get excited about Silicon Valley and what that meant for that part of the country, or the GPU and what it meant for NVIDIA, what excites me about what we're all doing together around quantum is the next stage could be ours. Right now, we're number one. We're number one, and the GDP is about $5 billion. But in 15 years, it's $1 trillion. What's really interesting about leading, imagine we lead the whole next stage of computing and what that means. I like that idea for Chicago. What becomes fascinating about that, which I think matters so much right now, is it actually will be the QPU and the GPU working together to solve all of our hardest problems. If you're at AbbVie right now and you're trying to find the hardest cure for the hardest part of the most complicated cancer disease you can imagine, it will be AI and quantum working together to solve that problem in ways that are entirely unimaginable. And what's starting to happen is there are AI companies reaching out eagerly to Chicago. And I could give you the list. We're starting to talk in the numbers of jobs that will really show up in the paper in a profound way and say, if we want to lead in AI, we need to get closer to what you're doing in quantum. And so what excites me is I actually think this could become, if we all rally together, the place where the future of computing is really landed. We get there by leading in quantum, but we actually back into an incredible position in the future of AI, but it requires us all working together. It requires the work you're describing on the south side of Chicago, the partnership with city colleges, the leadership that we've seen in the state, which I have personally not had a lot of experience to politics in my career, but someone said, hey, you're working on that project, why don't you call this person called Christy George and see if she can help? And to have a state government and intersect, et cetera, in spending time with the governor, they have dug in to really understand these very sophisticated topics and understood what it means to try to invest in these places. World Business Chicago in the city with Michael and others, our leading universities, national labs, our senators have been incredible partners to this work. This has been a true team effort. And so, Alexi, what really excites me is if you think about the next 20, 30 years of the American economy, computing will be core, and we actually have a shot at being the number one place in the country to do that.
Thanks, Brad. Great answer. Yeah, we can share to that. I'm moving over to Pete. Pete, what kind of talent does Chicago need to compete as a top global city of the future? And how do we cultivate this talent and keep it local?
Yeah, thanks, Lexi. I want to change my answer from life sciences to Kevin's answer, which is the thing we can best cultivate here is our amazing young people. I think on every panel there's got to be a wet blanket. That's going to be me today, and I'm just going to share some statistics that I think we should all be really concerned about. More than 70% of our children show up to kindergarten in this city unprepared. More than just think about that. More than 70% of our 11th graders in Chicago Public Schools are not reading or performing math at grade level. 19% of our black students who graduate from Chicago Public Schools go on to graduate from college. The number is only slightly higher amongst Latinx students. We have a major, major educational inequity problem in this state and in this city. I'll focus primarily on this city. And if we don't do something about that very, very quickly, I worry that all this other stuff that we're talking about is going to be challenged. We must invest in our underserved youth. I used to teach at a school in Englewood for 1 year. I was the only white person in the entire school, including faculty and staff. It was a high school called Johnson College Prep. I taught 41 students on Thursdays and Fridays, an entrepreneurship and business seminar. 21 on Thursday, 21 on Friday. They were all college going, they were all black, they were all below the poverty line. I asked on the first class of the year in September, of the 41 students, how many of you intend to come back to Chicago? I didn't say Englewood, I said Chicago. Of that, 2 raised their hands. 2. We are exporting talent. We are exporting our underserved minority talent. We cannot do that and be the shining city on the hill. We have to start investing in educating our youth. Let me give you another really shocking statistic. All of us as taxpayers, you know how much we invest in the form of detaining and incarcerating an adult? $52,000 a year. You know how much we invest as taxpayers in detaining and incarcerating a juvenile? $83,000 a year. Wouldn't it be amazing if instead of spending the taxpayer money to incarcerate people, we thought about spending $10,000 per student, which after Pell and our state MAP grants is about what it costs to send a student to one of our public universities, one of our amazing public universities. Shouldn't we be spending the $10,000 so we don't have to spend the 52 and the 83? That to me, those are the challenging dynamics that we have to look at in this city. And we have to really invest in educational access. And our students and our youth and our families, they have to believe that we're investing in more than just the Central Business District, more than just the Loop, more than just River North, more than just River West. We have to be investing meaningful dollars in scholastic aptitude and achievement and access for students in the South and West sides of Chicago if we want this to truly be the shining city on the hill, which I know it can be. I always say Chicago is the most majestic city in the world. I grew up in Toledo, Ohio, the armpit of the Midwest. All right? When I drive down Lakeshore Drive, I was a middle income kid. When I drive down Lakeshore Drive, I'm like, this city is fucking incredible. This is the best city in the world, literally. But it has to be the best city for everyone, not just for a select few.
Great answer. Thanks, Pete. This next question is for Kevin. Kevin, I think we all know on some level that sports are far more than entertainment, especially here in Chicago. A team helps define the culture, the spirit, the identity of a city. From your perspective, what role do the Bears play in a new vision for Chicago's future? And if you want to answer the second question, how critical is it that the Bears maintain a physical presence downtown?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for the question. I've been very outwardly strong about my desire to have the Chicago Bears play in a new stadium on the museum campus. I agree with everyone up here, and Pete said it best. I've been very fortunate to have some of the greatest jobs in the world, to travel around the world, and I've said it once, I've said it 100 times, I'll continue to say it, the most beautiful piece of land in the world, not in the United States of America, in the world, to build a sports venue that can have the interconnectivity not only with the city, surrounding counties, and the state, is on the museum campus. And if anyone had a chance to travel to see us play last year at Tottenham Stadium, it is, people talk about the stadium in Green Bay is tight in a neighborhood. Tottenham Stadium, you literally could step across the street and their house is there. And so I think one of the things, is this a Bears town? Absolutely. And thanks for wearing that Chicago Bears hat. So I noticed as soon as I got one friend in the audience. But I think one of the things that, and I don't ever say disappointing, that's an incredible opportunity for us here in Chicago, is that we need to start coming together. This is the most beautiful city. I mean, I live downtown, I look at the architecture, the infrastructure, but one of the things concerns me is that you go to some of these other cities, you go to Nashville, you go to St. Petersburg, Tampa, you go to Toronto, you go to most other places, and you see perpetual construction, cranes in the air. For us not to have building going on in and around Chicago, it's concerning. So I think collectively, we need to put down our knives. We need to come together regardless of our background, our race, religion, culture, come together, figure out how we can lean into these young people to invest in the people. And it's been interesting. I feel sometimes that there's this sense that the Chicago Bears are trying to grab all this money from all of these people in the state so we can make more money. If we could just sit down and articulate to each other the plans that we have for our new stadium, it's to solve these issues with our young people, to be a beacon, for this city and for this state. So people can say what they want about sports, but when all you have to do is to get in your car on a home Chicago Bears game or on Super Bowl Sunday and to recognize the gravitational pull of sports. I was fortunate to be commissioner of the Big Ten before this job, and we used to take our Big Ten football championships, our Big Ten basketball championships, and nothing against Indianapolis. It's one of my favorite cities. I have friends there. We've done business there. I love Indianapolis. I went to law school in South Bend. I spent a lot of time in the state of Indiana. Wonderful city. My daughter's there now. But when you think about our GDP is 4.5 times that of Indianapolis, and our population is 3 times the fact. They've hosted Super Bowls. They've hosted Final Fours. They have the Big Ten football championship. They just had the Big Ten basketball championship. They have the scouting combine in Indianapolis. And we're in Chicago. We've never hosted a Super Bowl here. Never hosted a Final Four. Never hosted a Big Ten football championship here. Now we have Super Bowl, Final Four, Big Ten championship, college football playoffs, UFC, WWE, massive amount of concerts that we are literally handing to states around the country because we don't have an adequate indoor facility here to be able to do it. The last job I had before the Big Ten was in Minnesota at the Vikings. We built a new stadium in Minnesota, as cold as it is there. We hosted a Super Bowl, we hosted a Final Four, we got concerts. So one of the big concerns I have is that if we don't come together and deal with some of these issues with our young people, especially our people of color, and really lean into quantum and our academics, our incredible institutions, people are starting to leave this city. We may not recognize it now, but we're going to look up 10 and 20, 30 years down the line, and our talent is going to be gone to LA, it's going to be gone to London, it's going to be gone to Paris, it's going to be gone to New York, it's going to be gone to Dallas, to Denver, and when this should be the hub that we can help be the gravitational pull. One thing about sports, and especially Chicago Bears, people learn about Chicago through sports. And when you think about it, very few people get a chance to come to our games. I think only 94% of the people that call themselves Chicago Bears fans around the world will never come to Soldier Field. They live around the world, and so they're tuning in. When we play on those national televised television games, they're seeing Lake Michigan. They're learning about our hotels. They're learning about our businesses. And we have an opportunity to really recruit that talent, but we have to get out of our way and stop fighting with each other internally in the city and the state. And we need to come together and make sure that we start leveraging all the assets that we have here.
Great answer. And if I can editorialize before the next question, I am very proud of this fact. I live in the city. Very few cities I have actually ridden my bike, locked it in front, watched the Bears game, done it to a Cubs game, done it for a Sox game, done it for a Bulls game, done it for a Fire game with my daughter at Soldier Field. How many cities in the world can you ride your bike to? Every single sports team. And I will tell you, having gone to a San Francisco 49er game, thinking I was going to a game in San Francisco, they do not play in San Francisco.
Santa Clara.
It's Santa Clara. And New York, when everyone gets excited about New York sports, sometimes you drive to New Jersey to watch your favorite New York team. Moral of the story is, I think we kind of take that for granted. We're blessed to have that in Chicago. So
The Cubs are in Japan right now.
that's, yes, yeah.
Can I say one thing? I am a season ticket holder of the Bears, and I've gotten to know Kevin, but I want everyone here to know how lucky we are to have this man in our city. I mean, this man is literally the best sports franchise executive in the entire country. It does not get any better than him. And importantly, he cares about more than just, and that's what we need to do as Chicagoans. We need to care about more than just our own provincial interests. We need to believe, and Kevin does, and all these people do, that a rising tide will lift all boats. And so, Kevin, I just want to say how profoundly lucky we all are to have you in the city. I know we're going to win a Super Bowl, and I know we're going to do it under your leadership.
Thank you, Pete. We're blessed to have you and everyone else here.
So before we go to our audience question, Andrea, federal action is suddenly squeezing funding for many of the civic-focused organizations that have become so valuable for the city. We know philanthropy has always been critical for innovation, especially in Chicago, but do you see the role of philanthropy now changing or expanding in this new world that we're tragically living in?
I mean, I think this moment, I've spent a lot of time, I feel like every day I talk to 15 or 20 different people about this question, right? What's happening to our country? What's happening at the federal level, and how will it impact our communities? How will it impact our state? How will it impact our city? Not enough information to know what those answers are, right? So what it calls on us to do is to be prepared for anything and to come together in ways that allow us to lean on each other more than ever. What's good about Chicago, you know, as we've all been saying, some version of, is we do that well. We already, across difference, across sectors, we lean on each other pretty well. I've lived and worked in many other big cities across this country, and we do it well. Philanthropic institutions, I've been on the phone emailing with just about every head of a philanthropic institution in this city for the last couple of months regularly. What we're trying to figure out how to do is take the lessons from how we moved differently during the pandemic, to make it easier for the nonprofits that are serving our communities to access resources as they need them. Philanthropy has served often as the risk capital for society, as the innovation capital for social good. It can be flexible because we are not seeking financial returns, we're seeking social returns, and we're not government, right? So we don't have to make people jump through hoops. So, you know, in this moment, what we're trying to figure out how to get our arms around is, you know, what are the things that nonprofit organizations are commonly experiencing and needing in this moment? And how do we provide those things in the easiest most low-lift way as possible when organizations are already stretched and stressed? One of the things we're doing first is legal services. Most nonprofit executives I've talked to are saying, I don't know what these executive orders mean for my organization. I don't know what these changes and how they're what they mean for the DEI order is the one that I hear about the most, right? We are committed to being inclusive workplaces in this city. We are, which means that we practice some form of DEI. Now, is it or is it not, quote unquote, illegal DEI as newly defined by this administration? I don't know, but we have access to lawyers that can help us figure that out. And so trying to figure out how to provide a shared resource of legal services, pro bono counseling, advising, education, litigation support is the first order of business that we've been trying to do, and take that burden off of organizations so they're not out there having to do that on their own. Communication support, financial planning for those organizations that rely heavily on government funds. We know that something is coming. We don't know exactly what that is. Who do we have access to as philanthropic institutions that can provide the right kind of guidance to nonprofits today? We're trying to put our arms around that and working with institutions that are already in that role to do this. So, you know, what it means is that we lean into our ability to be flexible and we try to be as responsive as possible in this moment. We will not be able to fill in the gaps should federal funding fall away for things like Medicaid. That is billions of dollars of funding that the state relies on to be able to help people get access to medical services. Philanthropic dollars aren't going to fill in that gap. What we can do, though, is help people plan. We can help people get creative about how we lean on each other in this moment. We can bring people together in ways that take the burden off of those organizations so they don't feel like they have to figure this stuff out on their own.
Great answer. Thank you. So we have another audience poll. Are we ready to put up there? Which of these facts and I will ask the panelists, is the most uniquely powerful statement about the strength of Chicago? A, Chicago is the number two city for corporate relocations. B, 2 of the top 5 business schools in the United States are in Chicago. C, Chicago has the most diversified economy of any major U.S. city. I'm going to speed around the panelists here. A, B, or C? Pete?
I'm going to go D. Chicago has the most unique people because, and this is a real asset, because we are the most authentic populace of any city in America. When you talk to a Chicagoan, you know they're not full of shit. You know they're not reading you, giving you a bill of goods. They mean what they say what they mean, they do what they say. I think that is the most unique asset of this city.
Great. Christy?
All right, so I'm with Pete. The people, that's the reason why I moved here. I moved here 18 years ago. I'm from the San Francisco Bay Area, so I love you, Kevin, but I am a 49ers fan. So I know.
Santa Clara 49ers.
But when I moved here, it was the people that I fell in love with. It was the grit, the hustle. It was all of the things that Pete just described. So I'm going with Pete, D.
D. Kevin?
Same thing. I mean, I just think, we are just so fortunate. When I was at the Vikings, our number one corporate partner trip, regardless of where we played in New York, or San Francisco, Los Angeles, was Chicago. And but what's interesting, we underestimate that, but this has the finest collection of restaurants, hotels, people, music, fashion, art, just architecture, just beauty. And I think we need to, even coming here today, the beauty associated driving through the city in these neighborhoods, this story needs to be told. So I'm grateful, Pete, and so many others for your help to bring this back to life. This is what makes Chicago, and I would say just the state of Illinois, so incredibly special.
One of my favorite quotes that's about urban economic development, I think it's attributed to a bunch of different people, including FDR, so I'm not really sure who said it first, is if you want a great city, create a great university and wait 100 years. And I think what's interesting is Chicago has at least 2, right? If you include University of Chicago Northwestern, and then you add DePaul, Leo, and others in Urbana, in addition to our national labs. And I do think we run the risk of not centering that incredible set of assets at the very core of how we build an economic development strategy. When I travel around the country, you see so many other places that would give anything to have universities of that caliber. What it means is the smartest people around the country and the world and in our own city aspire to do great things in those great places. And so I think sometimes we forget to include them in our big ideas as opposed to viewing them as perhaps the greatest source of them.
I'm going to try to connect some dots because I'll go with D.5 here. I think that the connection between the universities and the people across our neighborhoods who aren't often connected to those universities is our biggest asset, and it's an untapped asset. It's leveraging the strength of our university and our post-secondary systems generally and connecting those with all of the people, young people that we need to invest in, people who are already working age and haven't had access to that post-secondary success. So it's both. It's the people, their creativity, their grit, their commitment to one another. Chicagoans care about other Chicagoans. They care about their city. And so figuring out a way to connect those dots, making sure that those university assets aren't just for some of us.
Great answer. So I think we have time for one final question. All right. So I'm going to ask everyone this question. I wish we could stay here all night. You guys it's been an incredible evening. What is one bold, daring, and perhaps unexpected part of your visions for the future of Chicago? And what practical next step can we all take to help make it a reality? Kevin, I'll start with you.
I would say we talk about it every day. We had a call earlier today, is with our new stadium, what can we do to really impact the city, the county, the state in a manner that has never been done before. We talked about some ideas, and I know we can stay in this room, of how do we tie in our stadium where we can retire, debt for some of our veterans? Do we do something where we provide an opportunity for kids who come to our game to be able to eat for free? I mean, those are kind of things that we're talking about in this new building where people go, wow, that's Chicago. That's what makes it special. So I just want people to recognize this is not about building a new building. Yes, we're building a new franchise and coach and players and we will win multiple Super Bowls. We'll take care of all that. But with this new building, how we can have it from a legacy standpoint where that when people look at it, they almost get the same feeling as they do when you look at the Louvre. To say that's where the Mona Lisa is, that this is a stadium that, helped veterans, helped kids, sent kids to college, changed people's lives, although a building, but it had a heartbeat.
Great answer. Brad?
I love that vision. I'm going to leave that vision after I get to enjoy it, hop in my boat, go down just a little bit down to the lake to the U.S. Steel site, and I think that's where I go next, to building on Kevin's vision. And for me, I really do think, as a family of former union steelworkers, a son and grandson of, what happened to Chicago when that industry left decimated so many parts, and we never found a way to replace it. And I really do believe that 500 acres of land and the incredible people who live there and around there and the opportunity we have in front of us, that could be one of the greatest inclusive economic development stories in our nation's history. I really do. I don't think we're there yet. I think it's going to require everybody in this room thinking very differently about what could be done there. But there's no reason why the next 20,000 person chip fab, the chips of the future, can't be there. There's no reason we couldn't figure out a new model for those kinds of industries to work with City College, with Chicago State, et cetera. We couldn't find ways to do all of that in a way with clean energy that just has never been thought about before in heavy industry. And so my big wish, my big vision is for us all to close our eyes, think about what that could look like if it really became the opportunity where we put the steel mill of the future for everybody in that spot, and we delivered and showed the country how it's done.
Great answer. Andrea, I'll go to you.
Yeah, I will build on that. I think that what would be bold and unexpected is for a city like ours, known for its really intense segregation for so many decades, to become this hub for economic inclusion, for true inclusion across our city. And a practical way to do that, really, for everybody in this room is, think about who you're hiring, think about who you're reaching out to, think about what your talent pipelines are going to be. If you're an employer, if you're an investor, think about who you're investing in. There is no shortage of incredibly talented people in every corner of this city. I'm glad we're holding this event here in this neighborhood, one of the many neighborhoods that often gets overlooked for its talent and innovation and creativity. And I just think you don't have to look very far across the city to find that kind of brilliant talent, and that's a practical thing you can do every day in your roles.
I agree. Thank you. Christy?
Something that's striking me, and I did not prepare a response to this question, but just listening to Andrea and Brad and thinking about the work that we've done on the southeast side of the city in landing this quantum park and bringing PsiQuantum there and bringing IBM there and bringing the laundry list of AI companies and quantum companies that we're talking to there, and the need to be bold. It's going back to a piece that we've all kind of talked about, which is the strength of our city is in our ability to be inclusive, to collaborate. It's when we all come together, when we all focus on one mission, we can do anything. We can be unstoppable. I saw it personally firsthand putting together the DNC with a number of my partners here up on the stage. But when we all come together, when we all focus on whether it's helping children and making sure that they have the same economic opportunities and educational opportunities of any other big city and even beyond that, or it's making sure that we're just leveling the playing field over. I think it's something that we have to get our leadership all on the same page. And something that's so simple, but we do all need to be on the same page and have a strategy for how we move forward. So I know that's not necessarily bold, but it is so needed in a time when diversity, equity, and inclusion is a dirty word, at a time when our Department of Education is being completely dismantled, at a time when the federal supports that we've thought had always been there for years and years, decades and decades, are no longer there. The stability is no longer there. So we have to provide that stability. So
Great answer. Pete, want to close us out?
Yes. First of all, I want to say a quick thank you to all of you, the attendees, because you know what? There were a lot of people who probably wanted to come to this event today, but because of the location, it was a little bit out of the way, not in the normal circle of River North, West Loop, whatever. You showed up. You came to community. Thank you for doing that. We need more of this in these communities that are outside of the normal scope of the Central Business District. So thank you for being here. I'm going to provide a little bit of an analog to what I think is possible for my bold vision. I don't know if you've been to Kalamazoo, Michigan. It's not that sweet of a city. It's about, I mean, it's a fine place, but it's no Chicago, okay? That's sort of what I'm saying. It doesn't have that much industry. It's about 80,000 people. It is on the shores of Lake Michigan. And in 2010, the percentage of the population that was below the poverty line was 39%. In the 2020 census, the percentage of the population that was below the poverty line was 23%. Why? How do they have their population? By the way, over the same period, the state of Michigan's poverty line went down by 2%, and America broadly about 3%. So way out indexing their benchmarks. Why? Because in Kalamazoo, Michigan, they actually have more billionaires per capita than any city in America. I don't know if you know that. It's kind of an interesting statistic. But in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in 2006, they decided that they were going to perpetually fund every single kid who graduated from one of the 3 public high schools in that geography to go to college or trade school in the state of Michigan for free. For free. Now, what's happened? They have the poverty line. Guess what else happened? They have the highest enrollment of AP students who are minorities of any school system in the entire country. They are the fastest growing public school system in the entire country. They have doubled the enrollment of the public school system just by saying to their students and their families, we believe in you. It's a demand driver to bring people to that city. We're investing in you. We believe in you. We believe in you beyond the corridors of your high school. And therefore, and guess what? 70% of those kids who get their college or trade school funded, guess what? They come back to Kalamazoo. They want to be back in Kalamazoo. They're thankful. My bold vision for this city is every single school child who has the capacity, the desire, and the will to go on and get a post-secondary degree or certificate, could be welding, could be the police academy, I don't care what it is, but every single child has the capacity to do that. None of them, 0, should be determined to do something else because of financial constraints. We should find a way to ensure that every single one of our students can go to college, trade school, or to a certificate program for free. And if we do that, this will be a majestic city on par with the best cities in the world.
Thank you, Pete. And with that, I want to, again, thank you all for being here. I want to echo Pete's point about coming out to the community, seeing how lucky we are to have this building. And I want to give a special shout out to these incredible panelists. Let's give them a loud round of applause for their informative insights. And with that, I want to kick it back to Luke.